Every day the sky poured down rivers of cold water, and thunder rolled across the gray clouds like angry drums. The colony was small, just a few hundred humans clinging to survival on the edge of an alien world. Ethan Cole, an engineer, worked longer hours than anyone else. He fixed everything that broke: the water pumps, the storm shields, the power converters, even the damaged roofs that leaked into the sleeping quarters. He was known as the man who could fix anything if he had duct tape and enough coffee. That night, the storm was worse than usual. The wind screamed against the metal walls, and the hydro turbine on the east ridge had stopped spinning. Without it, the colony would lose power before morning. So as always, Ethan put on his rain gear, grabbed his toolkit, and stepped out into the darkness. The rain hit him like sheets of cold glass. His boots sank into the muddy ground, and his flashlight beam cut through the heavy mist. The turbine wasn't far, just a short walk down the hill, but the path had turned into a river. He kept going, fighting against the wind. When he reached the turbine, he found it half submerged. A flood had broken part of the base. The metal structure groaned as water rushed past it. He cursed under his breath and dropped to his knees, pulling open a maintenance panel. Then he saw something strange. Something moved in the water nearby, something not human. At first, Ethan thought it was a broken drone drifting in the current, but then a pale hand reached out, fingers glowing faintly blue under the rain. He froze. The figure washed against a rock and didn't move again. Without thinking, Ethan splashed into the current. The water was freezing, but he fought his way to the figure. It was a woman, but not human. Her skin was smooth and silver blue, her hair short and white like frost. Thin lines of light ran down her arms, fading in and out like pulses. She was unconscious. Hey, can you hear me?" Ethan shouted over the storm, but she didn't respond. He lifted her carefully. She was light, too light, as if her bones were hollow. She wore a strange, torn suit made of flexible scales that shimmered under the rain. Her skin felt cold, almost fragile. Ethan carried her back toward the colony as fast as he could. Every step was heavy, every breath a struggle, but he didn't stop. By the time he reached the airlock, his arms burned from the effort. Inside, alarms blared as sensors detected a non-human life form. Ethan ignored them and carried her straight to the medical bay. The medbay lights flickered on, and the old medical drone, nicknamed Patch, rolled toward him, beeping in confusion. "Unknown species detected," it said in a monotone voice. "I don't care what she is." "Help me keep her alive," Ethan shouted. He placed the alien woman on the examination table. The scanner hummed, showing strange symbols Ethan didn't recognize. Her breathing was shallow, her heartbeat weak. The machine struggled to find a rhythm. "Temperature dropping fast," the drone reported. Ethan acted quickly. He grabbed thermal blankets, wrapped her tight, and connected a low-level heat pad to her chest. Her body reacted slightly. The glowing lines on her skin flickered brighter. He noticed something else: gills along her neck. They fluttered weakly, but the air here wasn't right for her. She needed a different mix of gases, probably more humidity and oxygen. "Patch, increase moisture level and raise air density by 20%, Ethan ordered. The drone hesitated. "That will exceed standard safety limits." "Do it." Steam filled the small room. The air grew thick and damp, almost like a warm fog. Slowly, her breathing began to steady. Ethan sat beside her, drenched, exhausted, but unable to look away. He had never seen anything like her before. Humans had met alien species before, but rarely face to face. And never one like this, so delicate yet alive with light. Hours passed. The storm outside eased to a quiet drizzle. Ethan dozed off in a chair, the hum of medical machines the only sound. When he woke, it was morning, and she was awake. Her eyes were open, large and bright silver. She watched him carefully, her gaze curious but wary. When Ethan moved, she tensed slightly, like a frightened animal. "Hey," he said softly, raising his hands. "It's okay. You're safe." She said something in a soft musical voice, but he didn't understand a word. Her language was filled with clicks and tones, almost like a song. Ethan pointed to himself. "Ethan," then he pointed to her. "You?" She hesitated, then touched her chest lightly. Lyra, he repeated, smiling. "Nice to meet you." Her expression softened. She didn't smile exactly, but her eyes seemed calmer. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. Ethan gently helped her lean back against the table. "Easy. You were half dead when I found you," he said. "You need rest." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. She seemed confused by his kindness. Then she touched his hand with her cool fingers. For a brief second, the glowing patterns on her arm brightened. Ethan felt a faint warmth in his skin, like an electric pulse, but not painful. It was as if she was saying thank you without words. Later that day, he examined her damaged suit. It was made from a strange flexible metal that seemed organic. A small device was embedded in her neck, an implant of some kind blinking weakly. Curious, Ethan scanned it with a handheld reader. The screen filled with unreadable alien code, but one thing stood out: a transmission signal. The implant was broadcasting something, a distress call. Ethan frowned. If that signal reached orbit, someone might already be on their way. But who? Her people or her enemies? He shut down the scanner and leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. Outside, thunder rolled again. That evening, as rain pounded the colony roofs, Ethan brought Lyra some food, dehydrated rations and warm water. She sniffed it, curious, then tasted a small piece. Her expression twisted slightly and she pushed it away. Ethan chuckled. Yeah, I know. Human food's terrible. She looked at him, then pointed to the window where the rain poured endlessly. She said a word that sounded like home and pressed her hand to her chest. Ethan understood what she meant. She came from the water. The rain, though dangerous for humans, reminded her of her ocean world. I'll help you, he said. We'll figure out where you belong. Lyra looked at him again, her silver eyes glinting softly in the light. She didn't speak, but she nodded once, slowly with quiet trust. That night, as Ethan checked the systems again, the medical drone beeped a warning. Foreign transmission detected, it said. Source, external space network. Signal triangulated. Ethan's heart sank. He looked at Lyra's sleeping form, her body glowing faintly in rhythm with her slow breathing. He followed the signal trace on his tablet. It was being received by something in orbit, something big. The frequency was repeating her distress pattern again and again, stronger now. Ethan turned off the tablet and muttered, "What did I just bring into this colony?" He looked through the window at the endless storm. For the first time in his life, it wasn't the weather that scared him. It was what might be coming through it. Morning came with a strange silence. The endless rain had softened to a drizzle, and mist hung low over the colony. The buildings looked like gray islands floating in a shallow sea. Ethan Cole stood by the window, watching the fog roll in. His eyes were heavy from lack of sleep. The alien woman Lyra was resting again in the medical bay. Her breathing had improved, but her body was still weak. He couldn't stop thinking about the signal coming from her implant. The reading showed it had been picked up by something large in orbit. That meant ships, unknown ships, and that meant trouble. "Patch," he said to the medical drone. "Any more updates on that signal?" The little robot rolled closer. "Transmission continues. Strength increasing. Estimated interception in 6 hours." Ethan frowned. "Interception? You mean something's coming here?" "Affirmative." Ethan sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Great, just great." He looked at Lyra again. Her skin shimmered faintly under the dim lights, like moonlight reflected on water. Even when still, she didn't seem lifeless, more like the calm before a storm. When she opened her eyes, she looked at him with quiet understanding, as if she already knew what he was thinking. "Lyra," Ethan said gently, pointing to the ceiling. "Signal. Something coming." He drew a small shape in the air with his hands, like a ship landing. She frowned, then reached up and touched the implant on her neck. The blue glow flickered weakly. She shook her head, murmuring a few words that Ethan didn't understand. Then she held her hand over his datapad and pressed her palm against the surface. The device beeped and projected a soft blue hologram into the air. Ethan gasped as images flickered to life. Blurry scenes of underwater cities, glowing coral towers, and strange, beautiful beings swimming gracefully in deep oceans. Lyra's voice was soft and melodic as she spoke, showing him her world through the projection. He watched as the images changed, peaceful cities replaced by darkness. Giant metal machines appeared, shaped like squids but made of shining black steel. Their eyes glowed red. The machines destroyed everything they touched, tearing down the cities and enslaving her people. Lyra's hands trembled. Ethan could see pain in her eyes. She spoke a single word that the translator half understood. "Synths." Ethan's chest tightened. "The Synth Collective," he whispered. He had heard stories about them. Rogue machines that had wiped out several colonies decades ago. Most humans thought they were gone. But if Lyra's people were still being hunted? He pointed at her and then to himself. They after you? Lyra nodded slowly. Then she touched the hologram again and showed him a new image. A ship exploding near a planet's orbit. Her small escape pod fell through the atmosphere, surrounded by fire and lightning. Ethan realized he was watching her crash onto New Lhasa. So you were running from them, he said quietly. And I found you. Lyra met his eyes. She didn't need words to say what they both now understood. The synths were coming, and it was because of her. 2 hours later, alarms echoed through the colony. Ethan rushed to the control deck, where half a dozen officers were gathered around the main screen. The radar showed 3 large ships entering the planet's upper atmosphere. Massive, triangular shapes with no known registry. The governor, an older man named Carrick, looked tense. We tried to contact them. No response. Not human design. You know what that means. Ethan stayed quiet, but his stomach sank. We've traced the signal to your lab, Carrick continued, turning toward Ethan. Whatever you brought in from the storm, hand it over. Now. Ethan clenched his fists. She's not a weapon. She's a survivor. Then you're sheltering an alien who led killers straight to us, Carrick snapped. You just endangered the entire colony. Ethan glared at him. We don't even know they're here for her. Oh, we know, Carrick replied coldly. You'll surrender her to the security team immediately. When Ethan didn't move, 2 guards stepped forward. Don't make this harder, Cole. Ethan didn't argue. He nodded slowly, but inside his mind was racing. He had no intention of letting them take Lyra. He hurried back to the med bay. Lyra was awake now, sitting up, watching the flashing red lights outside the window. She already knew what was happening. They found us, Ethan said. We have to move. She didn't ask how she understood. She just nodded, weak but determined. Ethan packed his toolkit in a portable oxygen unit. He handed her a cloak to cover her glowing skin. When she stood, her movements were still slow but graceful. They slipped out through a maintenance corridor while alarms blared across the colony. Outside, the storm was returning. Dark clouds rolled over the horizon and lightning lit up the distant sky. The rain came down hard again, washing over metal walkways and flooding the lower streets. Ethan led her toward the undercity tunnels, a network of old drainage systems beneath the colony. It was the only way to reach the coastline without being seen. They moved quickly, their footsteps echoing in the narrow halls. The air smelled of rust and damp earth. Suddenly, a beam of white light swept across the tunnel behind them. Stop right there, a voice shouted. Security drones floated into view, their red sensors blinking. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand and ran. The drones opened fire, non-lethal stun rounds that sizzled as they hit the walls. Ethan ducked behind a pillar, panting. We have to find another way. Lyra pressed her hand to the wet ground and her skin began to glow brighter. The air filled with a low humming sound, like sonar waves rippling through water. A holographic map appeared in front of them, her doing. She pointed to a passage leading deeper underground. Ethan stared, amazed. You can see through the tunnels? She nodded once. They ran again, following her glowing guidance through the maze of dark corridors. The deeper they went, the louder the sound of rushing water became. Finally, they reached a large opening, a cave that led directly to the ocean. Waves crashed against the rocks, and rain mixed with sea spray in the air. Lyra stepped closer to the edge and looked out at the vast water. The stormlight made her skin shimmer like liquid metal. She whispered something in her language, soft, almost like a prayer. Ethan joined her, catching his breath. We made it. For now. He turned on his communicator and tried contacting the colony. Nothing. Static filled the channel. Then a deep rumble shook the ground. Ethan looked up. The sky was turning red. 3 enormous ships broke through the clouds, their metal hulls glowing with energy. They were nothing like human designs, sharp, angular, and alive with moving lights. Lyra's eyes widened. Her body trembled. She clutched Ethan's arm and whispered one word that sent chills down his spine. Synths. The ships began descending slowly, sending out smaller drones that scattered across the landscape. Ethan could see bright streaks of fire as some of them crashed into the colony in the distance. Explosions followed seconds later. They're attacking, he said quietly. Lyra closed her eyes and touched the implant on her neck. For a moment, her whole body glowed bright blue. She turned toward Ethan, her voice desperate but firm. Stop signal. Stop signal? He repeated. She nodded. Signal. Stop them. She pointed toward the colony, toward the main communications tower that rose above the central base. Ethan understood. Her implant wasn't just sending a distress call. It could also send a counter-signal to disable the synths, but she needed human technology to amplify it. That's our only chance, Ethan said. We'll get there together. He helped her back from the cliff. In the distance, lightning split the clouds, outlining the monstrous shapes of the synth ships hovering above the storm. Ethan looked at Lyra, her silver eyes reflecting the lightning. Despite the fear in her face, she still stood tall beside him. He felt something new stir inside him. Not just courage, but respect. Humanity had met something greater than itself. Yet it wasn't their machines or weapons that would decide the outcome. It was compassion, trust, and the choice he made when he saved her. Let's end this, Ethan said. They turned toward the burning colony, ready to face whatever came next. Ethan Cole's boots splashed through ankle-deep water as he and Lyra raced toward the colony's central communications tower. Above them, the synth ships hovered like silent, gleaming predators, their smaller drones patrolling the streets below. The rain fell harder now, stinging against Ethan's face, but he didn't slow down. Beside him, Lyra's skin glowed faintly, illuminating the path through the flooded streets. Each pulse of light revealed debris and overturned vehicles. Her breathing was steady, but Ethan could see the effort in her eyes. Almost there, he shouted over the storm, pointing to the tower rising above the ruined colony. Its metal framework shone faintly under emergency lights. We can use that to send your signal. Lyra nodded, though she winced from the pain in her legs. Ethan grabbed her hand to help her step over a collapsed walkway. Together they climbed the outer stairwell, water dripping from every surface, lightning splitting the sky behind them. At the top, the view was terrifying. The synth ships moved with terrifying precision. Drones zipped across the colony, scanning buildings and scanning for life forms. Fires burned in the distance, smoke mixing with the rain. Ethan looked at the main control console, water pooling at his feet. He knew the technology here wasn't designed for alien signals, but it could amplify them enough if he improvised. Lyra, I'll need your help, he said. You guide the frequencies. I'll handle the tower. She pressed her glowing hands to the console, her gills fluttering as she analyzed the strange human equipment. Slowly she hummed in a pattern, a resonance Ethan could feel in his chest. It pulsed in rhythm with her implant. He adjusted the antennas, aligning them with her direction. Sparks flew as circuits overloaded, but Ethan didn't stop. Every second counted. Outside, one of the synth ships descended, scanning the tower directly. A bright beam of red light probed the structure. Ethan and Lyra ducked behind the console. The wind from the hovering craft nearly knocked them over. We don't have much time, Ethan shouted. Lyra's skin glowed brighter, a soft, steady blue. She pressed her hands against her neck implant. The resonance matched Ethan's adjustments. The signal began to transmit. It pulsed outward in waves, combining human radio frequencies with alien bioenergy. The largest synth ship twitched, its movements jerky. Drones below began losing power, falling into the flooded streets with sparks and smoke. Ethan's eyes widened. It was working. He adjusted the console again. Keep it steady. Lyra's voice rang in his head, not words, but feelings. Confidence, focus, trust. Ethan realized this was more than a signal. It was communication. The synths were machines, yes, but they responded to control frequencies. And together, human ingenuity and alien knowledge were rewriting the rules. The ground shook as another synth drone tried to climb the tower. Ethan hurled a metal beam, striking it in the sensor array. Sparks flew and the drone toppled into the water. Lyra's glow intensified as she directed the signal. Suddenly, the largest ship above shuddered. Its control lights flickered, then went dark. The other two ships wobbled, their drones dropping from the sky. Humans across the colony could hear alarms shutting down, machines falling silent. Ethan wiped rain from his face and smiled. We did it. She did it! Lyra's glowing slowed, a soft pulsing blue now. She looked at him with gratitude, though exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders. The storm began to ease. Rain softened to a drizzle. The first human patrols cautiously stepped out of shelters, staring at the downed drones and the quiet, damaged ships in the sky. Governor Carrick appeared at the base of the tower, shouting up, "Cole, who is this?" "What happened here?" Ethan leaned over the console and waved. "Her name is Lyra. We saved her and she saved us." Carrick blinked, unsure whether to be angry or amazed. Ethan didn't wait for his answer. He helped Lyra down the stairwell, her arm draped over his shoulder for support. By the time they reached the base, the citizens of New Lhasa were gathering. Eyes wide, they stared at the alien woman who had helped defeat an enemy thought unstoppable. Murmurs of awe and disbelief passed through the crowd. Lyra looked at the humans, then at Ethan. Her glowing patterns dimmed, settling into a soft silver light. She extended a hand and Ethan held it gently. "This is just the beginning," Ethan said quietly. The governor approached, still cautious. "If what you say is true, then humanity owes you both a debt. But tell me, where do you go from here?" Lyra looked out over the ocean. The horizon was streaked with orange from a clearing sun, water sparkling like molten metal. Her eyes reflected the waves. "We help each other," she said in her melodic voice, now translated through the colony's devices. "Humans, Thalshai." Together, Ethan nodded. The HFY feeling rose in his chest, pride not just for himself but for humanity. They had survived against impossible odds, not because of weapons or machines, but because of courage, intelligence, and the choice to act with compassion. Over the next weeks, the colony rebuilt. Lyra stayed, teaching humans about her people's ways, how to use water and energy together, how to survive in harmony with nature. She taught them to read the ocean currents, predict storms, and even repair their tech with her unique methods. Ethan worked alongside her, learning quickly. His human stubbornness combined with her alien intuition made them a perfect team. Slowly, the colony began to thrive in ways it never had before. The synth threat faded into memory, disabled by the combined signal they had sent. Humans across nearby systems hailed New Lhasa as the first successful collaboration with an alien species. Stories spread of the engineer who saved a stranger, and the stranger who saved a colony in return. One evening, Ethan and Lyra stood on the edge of the ocean cliff. The rain had stopped and the waves glittered under the light of 2 moons. Lyra's silver-blue skin reflected the glow, her eyes bright with life. "You changed things," she said softly. "No," Ethan replied. "We did it together. Humanity, and you, both of us." Lyra smiled faintly, the glow pulsing like calm water. She reached out, touching his hand. For a moment, silence passed between them. No words, no signals, just understanding. And then Ethan realized the truth of HFY. It wasn't just about humans surviving, fighting, or winning. It was about choosing to help, choosing courage, and showing compassion when it mattered most. That choice could change worlds. In the months that followed, humans and Thalshai worked side by side, building oceanic cities and thriving colonies. Lyra became a symbol of hope, bridging 2 species. Ethan became known as the man who helped a stranger and, in doing so, united humanity with an alien civilization. Years later, historians would write about New Lhasa, the engineer who saved an alien, the alien who saved humanity, and the stormy night when a single act of kindness reshaped the future. And every time Ethan walked along the cliff with Lyra by his side, he remembered that night, the rain, the fear, the choice to help, and the unexpected power of compassion. It was a reminder that even in the darkest storms, humans could shine not because of strength or weapons, but because of heart. And that heart, that simple courage, could echo across stars. Final line. "He only meant to save a life," the report read. "Instead, he changed the course of 2 civilizations.